Okay, we are starting to learn how to write alternative practicals experiment in a proper manner. Before we could write the experiment, we should able to think in a proper way of writing the experiment which we supposed to follow according to the requirement of the syllabus. But I do have my own thinking way of writing my experiment, where we are going to discuss now how to arrange your thinking order to answer alternative to the experiment questions. That means we are thinking another way which has been stated in the school syllabus, but I'm stating another way that we're going to use to answer paper 3 and paper 6, which is an alternative to the experiments. Now, 1. Every experiment, there is an aim. They will provide you the aim. Now you need to know how to achieve your aim of the question. Now, to do this, we need to achieve the aim through analysis of data. And this analysis of data can be done by using a graph or observation, specific observation being stated, or by doing the calculation. Either one of it or two of it or all the three of it will be used to achieve the aim of the experiment. And that's what we call the analysis of data. So without knowing the analysis data, you are unable to achieve the aim. Second, when we want to achieve the analysis of data, then what is the information required for the analysis of data? To carry out the analysis of data, then we need tabulation of data, which provides all the information that we needed to achieve the analysis of data. Okay, we are required the tabulation of data to achieve the analysis of data. And next problem that we're going to get is a third problem. That is how we are going to obtain the tabulations of data. Okay, when you want to achieve the tabulation data, we can get all the data by carrying out the experiment. That means all measurements of data required can be obtained through carrying out the experiment. So we're carrying out experiment practically to fill up the entire field which is empty in a tabulation. By doing that, we can get all the information that's required for the analysis data. Therefore, we can achieve the objective of the experiment. Now, once you're able to carry out the tabulation data, now we can go to the fourth point. Okay, we can go to the fourth point. Okay, before we need to carry out the experiment, we need to determine the variables. So what are the variables that we need to determine? We need to determine the manipulator variable, we need to determine the responding variable, we need to determine the constant variables. Now, what are the three variables? The three variables that we need to do is by knowing what is our aim of the experiment, and from the tabulation data, we're able to determine the three variables here. Once we determine the variables, then only we can decide the hypothesis. Practically, what they say, the manipulation variable increases as the responding variable increases, or respondable variable is decreases. You choose whichever is relevant to the question. And third, fourth, fifth, we can actually go to inference. So when you are answering the inference, all students must understand whether the inference is being stated as an inference of an experiment or it is an observation inference. Practically, sometimes what they do, they state, write what is the observation of the experiment. Then the next column, they give you, write the inference. It means they are requesting you to write the observation inference. If they want you to write an inference of an overall experiment, the entire experiment, then I call this as an experiment inference. If you want to write experiment inference, then we need to write the manipulated variable influenced by the responding variable, or you can say that responding variable is influenced by manipulated variable. So either way you can say it, and this is how we write in a standard way of answering the question. Now we are going to the seventh point of this writing the experiment is the procedure. Now a lot of students write a procedure without knowing it a proper way of writing the procedure. Now every procedure there is a 6 step. Okay, I've written 6 steps to write a procedure. So in a procedure, as an examiner who actually marking your paper, will looking into your procedure, how you did actually wrote the answer script. First, in the procedure, I need to look into the arrangement of apparatus. So you need to draw a diagram if you can draw one, and sometimes we don't even have a diagram. So if possible, please draw an arrangement of apparatus. Secondly, second point that I'm looking into the procedure is arrangement of apparatus in words. That means you explain how the experiment is supposed to be carried out. Okay, how the experiment is being set up. This is the second factor. And the third factor that we are going to do is a control manipulated variable 1 and followed by control responding variable 1. Now this is the third things that we're going to write. Now what it means by control manipulated variable 1 and responding variable 1, it means the first field on the tabulation of data. Let's say I've given you an example of tabulation data here with the one experiment where we needed a time for 0, 20, 30, 40 and 60. This indicates this is a manipulated variable. The reading of the burette and also the volume of carbon dioxide is actually what we call the responding variable. So the tabulation manipulated variable, you can give the value, a specific value, but you can't give any value for reading of the burettes or the volume. That means the responding variables, we are unable to give a value because we are not carrying out an experiment in paper alternative to practicals. Okay, therefore the first field in the questions, you need to fill up with the control manipulated variable 1 and followed by the second is a control manipulated variable 2 onwards and responding 2 onwards. That means 20, 40, 60 and so on. Now we will normally mention this, the experiment is repeated when the time is 20, 40, 60 with all other conditions remain unchanged. That kind of statement will be used to explain the fourth category of the experiment. And the fifth category of the experiment is the student should know how to control the constant variable. Even though you have mentioned what is a control variable in the syllabus, but you must explain in your experiment how to control the variable. Okay. Now, last, the 6 points we need to state the precaution. All these requirements will be built in your procedure when answering the questions. Okay. Then only once we know what to do with the experiment, then I should be able to list out the apparatus and the material, and then only I will make my calculation. Of course, during the arrangement that I have given to you does not follow the requirement of the syllabus. So what you need to do is, after your order of thinking has been set up as what I said, now you are ready to write the experiment report as required according to the syllabus. So you follow the requirement of syllabus, follow the steps, what has been asked to answer the question. But the earlier one is the way of thinking to answer the experiments. And sometime in any of the paper 3 questions, they do ask you another part which is called as an operational definition. This is not part of the experiment, but this is a part of the examination question which is normally being asked. If the question asks you what it means by operational definitions, it is a statement that shows what you do and what you observe. These two things must be put together to explain or to give a definitions, operational definitions. Example, let's say the one operational definitions of coagulations of latex. So to do the coagulation of latex, what I do, so when acid is added to the latex. So what is the observation that I'm going to get? Observation is a white solid is formed. So when white solid is formed, that means the latex is coagulated. That means coagulation of latex is being done. So this is how we define the operational definition, and I stated an example. Now this is a way how you're supposed to write an experiment in either in SPM or IGCSE for alternative form.